Welcome, everybody. We are excited to have Liz here with us today to talk a little bit more about her journey as a lost mom. She lost her baby, Aaliyah. And I just want to say thank you so much again for coming on today, Liz. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We're very excited for you to be here and talk and have this conversation because I think it's so important. So, Liz, can you, before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and then tell us a little bit about Aaliyah and kind of what happened to her?
Absolutely. So I'm Liz, Aaliyah's mom. I delivered her on December 1st, 2020, after a very healthy and perfect, so I thought, pregnancy at about 32 weeks. She had a lot of hair, is what I always say about her. And for me, as her mom, I was a former educator, and now I've just kind of turned into a full blown stillbirth advocate.
Which is so great. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk to you about this and about your advocacy. So, if you haven't had a chance, please go check out Liz's story of the birth, well, her pregnancy and her birth of Aaliyah and all of that. Because there's a lot of things along the way that I was like, just like just enough things that being in the healthcare field, you're just like, oh, what, I think this is the kind of one of the steps of grief is to find purpose in your daughter's life. I think having that kind of higher meaning. So after you came home from the hospital, you started to, how did that grief period look like, first of all? Like, how did those first few months look like? Because I don't know about you, but it was pretty rough for me.
It was, when I was leaving the hospital, actually, when I was in the hospital, this should never be anyone's at the forefront of their mind. But I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I have to tell my job.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in those moments of grief, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything has changed. And so in telling my job, and I can get more into that about what happened after, but I don't think that my period of grief after Aaliyah looked the way it honestly should have looked,
Mhm.
because I had this issue with my job all of a sudden come into play that required me to be on it at all times and hyper focused on what was going on there, that it kind of derailed me from what I think most people experience as their immediate grieving period after a loss like this.
If you can give us a little bit
Yeah.
more details, because at the time you're an educator at this time. You're an educator. It was in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so you were teaching remotely, virtually. Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so what were the issues that were causing you to not have a chance to grieve, I guess?
Yeah. So after finding out everything, my best work friend kind of told the people at work, and I was
Mhm.
assured that everything was going to work out. Just focus on that grief, right? And one of the main things that I wanted to say to HR was that, look, I was supposed to be out for the remainder of the school year. I was approved for, to be out for the rest of the year. Leah was due end of January,
Okay.
end of January. And so I was going to be out for the entire rest of the school year.
Gotcha.
And I just really wanted them to know that, look, I'm not going to be out the rest of the school year. I'm going to be back after 8 weeks to heal my body, right? Like
Yeah.
after you deliver a baby, there is some healing,
Yes.
whether or not that baby leaves the hospital with you. And I was immediately told that my leave was going to be canceled because didn't have a, I didn't leave the hospital with a baby. And so at first, so this is happening days after
Yes.
losing Leah, right? Days. And so at first, again, because stillbirth was so foreign to me when it happened, I'm thinking it must also be foreign to this man that I'm talking to over email.
Yes.
I explained it. I said, no, I had a full delivery. I only need the 8 weeks of the leave to heal my body, and then I will be back. And the response was, I'm thinking maybe he thought I had a miscarriage or something, which
Right.
is very terrible, but our differences with the leave stuff. And the response was essentially, you're only caring for yourself. So you don't get that leave. And then part of my FMLA was also canceled. So I immediately retained counsel and had them send a letter. I'm thinking, and this is all around Christmas now.
Yeah.
So it's the holidays, right? So not everyone's checking their email. My lawyer sent an email saying there must be some confusion. The law states birth of a child. That happened. She just wasn't able to leave the hospital with her baby. And the answer was still no. And then right before, winter break starts for students, I get an email saying that if I don't return after winter break, I'm considered AWOL. So I said, okay. My leave was taken and I had to drain my sick leave.
Right.
Until I could go back. I mean, we all know what happens after delivering a child, whether you deliver vaginally or after a C-section and you can't walk. It's not, it's not easy to go back to your everyday life.
Yeah.
Aside from the additional part of the grief with this situation. And so since then, I've been a huge advocate of paid family leave after stillbirth. What it all came down to was how the policy was written. And the policy did not include stillbirth, but it also didn't exclude it. And so it was up to my employer to decide how they wanted to choose to read the policy. And that was the problem.
Yeah.
And I was so angry being told that I'm only caring for myself, just no acknowledgement. I kept using Aaliyah's name. No acknowledgement of her as a being.
Right.
That I posted a photo on Instagram and I didn't tell anyone that I was going to do it. My mom and Aaliyah's father were not happy with me, but I felt like I had to because I could not believe these people were making me feel like my daughter wasn't real.
Didn't exist. I know. Yes.
And I wasn't going to have that. So the post ended up going viral, which I was not expecting. I was just trying to embarrass my employer. Never in a million years did I think I would be scheduling an interview with the Sun in the UK to talk about my situation here in the States.
Yeah.
But everything just started spiraling out of control really, really fast. It was really tough because I'm trying to grieve my daughter and now I also have all this other stuff to deal with. But in a way, it's allowed me to meet incredible people that are also advocating for change in this space. It's allowed me to meet other lost moms like us, and it's allowed me to create a beautiful organization in memory of my daughter and be a founding member of another beautiful organization for all of our babies.
Yeah.
But when we talk about, the grief period after, I feel like that was robbed from me, from my employer. And my main goal with that was to make sure that nobody experienced that after me. And so DC passed an emergency bereavement bill initially, which provides 10 days paid leave to parents that experience stillbirth or for parents that experience loss of a child under 21. So that was nice, but I try to say this as often as I can. I never mentioned mental health once in my fight for this leave. It was, I still delivered a child.
Yes.
We're going to need to fix this law to make it more clear, especially to people who are grieving at this level, to know, am I included in this? Am I not? There should never be a question.
Yes.
And while I would love for you to include us, if you're not going to include us, then just say it. And I need everyone to say it. And what ended up happening was different government agencies were making public statements that they do provide leave for stillbirth.
Oh, okay.
And others were saying, well, we don't read the law like that. And that's not a way to handle this situation. It should not be open for interpretation. It should be very clear whether you include us or not. And as of October, the DC paid family leave now does include stillbirth. And so I'm happy that first we had the bereavement bill and that now there's no question that stillbirth is included. And so I'm very happy about that.
That is amazing.
I didn't want anyone to experience what I did.
Yeah. because you're like, oh, let's add trauma upon trauma. just
That was exactly it.
it
I mean,
just
how many more times could I say, unless he really wanted me to describe every moment of the labor, like, no, I really had a baby and now I'm being punished because she wasn't breathing.
yeah,
I'm being punished because I walked out of the hospital alone
yeah,
and not with a bassinet. Like,
yeah,
that really, it put me in a very dark, dark place. In addition to the dark place, obviously, that you're already in
yeah.
after this experience.
Yeah,
So
I would be so jaded and just like, what is wrong with the world? I just,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And it's not like everyone says don't read the comments, right? But I read every single comment on all the interviews that I did after. And some people think that you're just looking for a handout. Some people say just really cruel things, but really it just comes down to policies being written where you're including everybody.
yeah,
And what a blessing to those that wrote that policy where our situation never even crossed their mind.
yeah.
That's a
Like,
blessing, right?
yes,
And now I'm here to tell you, look, this also happens. So let's revise it to include these families that are touched by a loss like this.
yeah. That is so. I am so grateful. When we first started talking about this, I was just like, wow, this is huge for lost families. It's huge for us to be able to. It's almost feels like a little bit of validation that yes, we did have a baby. Like, because it's
Exactly.
so easy for people to forget that we had that baby. like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think
And
that's
I'm happy
amazing.
that now more conversation about providing adequate time, whether people choose to look at it from the physical healing or the mental health standpoint. I feel like the conversation has been elevated. I see a lot more companies now also including leave for miscarriage, which I think is very, very important
Hmm.
as well. And I'm happy that I don't know if my story elevated it a bit, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more companies and stuff coming out and saying that they're providing leave and that they are starting to focus more on families that experience this.
Yeah.
And to me, that's huge
Oh
because
yeah.
an employer cannot do their best job if they are not being supported. And I can't imagine what I would have been like as an educator returning back to the classroom a week or two after my own child died.
Yep.
And now I have to take care of 20 other
Yep.
children that are not mine.
It just would not be good for you. It would not be good for the kids. I mean, like, you're just not in
Exactly.
the right frame of mind at all. So I kudos to you for really advocating that. I want to just point out, if you have not listened to Liz's episode about the birth of her daughter, she talks about how they were she and her Aaliyah's dad were definitely sure that Aaliyah was going to be spicy. And I feel like some of that feistiness has come out in this fight in a sense. So I think that's awesome. Good job, Aaliyah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, so many people are asking me, how are you doing this? Even so soon having to do the interviews. I didn't know how I would do with that. And the very first reporter that interviewed me, we're actually friends now. And again, it's like what I shared in the birth story episode when I was told about what was happening with Aaliyah. I just had to do what I had to do.
Yep.
And I could melt down about it later. But I needed to tell people that this happened to me and it was wrong
Mhm.
and that this needs to change. And so I just kept telling myself, for interviews and stuff, just sit there, just do it, and then you can melt down.
Yeah.
But you got to get this message out because it's ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, that is Aaliyah's spiciness for sure.
I just love it. Okay, so you are definitely having some trauma on top of your grief, and then
Yes.
transitioning into it. I feel like you transitioned your grief, that kind of that spiciness, that purpose of
Mm.
Aaliyah's life, into some other things. I want you, if can you talk to me a little bit about your organization that you founded, and then also one that you are very much involved in, because I think both of these, I just want to, if you guys get a chance, I'm gonna put links in the show notes and everything, because these are so important, I think really cool. what you're doing, Liz. So, can you tell us a little bit about Aaliyah in action, maybe first? And
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
I just wanted, like, I think it's so cool. So let's talk about that.
Thanks. So, yes, Aaliyah in Action is the nonprofit that I founded here in DC. We provide self care packages for women and families after loss, and that's any perinatal, neonatal, or infant death. We provide these packages for. When I left the hospital, I had so many, I'm known as like the beauty makeup girl.
Hmm.
And so I had a lot of friends send me just little, self care items.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. I mean, you hate yourself after this happens to you.
Yeah.
And I tried, and now I'm being given all these pampering items, and you feel like you don't deserve it, right? But you do, because somehow you made it to today, and somehow you're going to make it to tomorrow too. So you might as well make it to tomorrow with a face mask and some nice fuzzy socks and a really great smelling candle, because you're somebody's mom. That somebody is not here. And now you need to wake up every day with that, and also still try to be a functioning person in society.
Yeah.
So for me, making something that is specifically for that birthing person was just so important.
Yeah.
We leave the hospital with, if you're lucky, a little
Yeah.
memorial box, memory box. We did not go through that box for months. Her father still has not looked at that box. It's too hard.
Hmm.
And some people love it and they look in that box every day, and that is for them. It's not for us. And in some conversations that I had with other people, it's not for them
Hmm.
too. So, okay, in that case, what can we have that's just for us? The mom, the dad, the siblings. What can we have just for us? So here we have Aaliyah in Action self-care packages. One of our values in sourcing our items, we have fuzzy socks, a lip balm, aromatherapy candle, lavender shower steamer, face mask, and healing, like recovery tea.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the values in our organization is to purchase these items from women and Black owned businesses,
Awesome.
because that reflects who Aaliyah would have been growing up in this city. So it's important for us to find vendors that fit that,
Yeah.
because that reminds us of our daughter. And so each package has those 6 items. And I can share this with you to post. I created like a self-care choice board,
Oh.
kind of like a bingo board or tic-tac-toe board. And the
Yeah.
idea is that you cross out one thing that you do, just one each day. And the actions are take shower, drink water, little things that you are not doing
Yeah.
those first few days after loss, right?
Yeah, and you forget to do those things
Oh,
because you're just
totally.
like, I'm just gonna sit here and cry, or I'm gonna sit here and just be
Totally.
a zombie. Okay. So
Yep.
you want me to do
Yep. And then
what?
all of a sudden you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten in 2 days.
Yes.
Okay, maybe you need to eat some vegetables or something. I don't know, something to keep you alive at
Yeah.
a time when you don't want to be alive in a lot of cases. So that's also in the package. And then we also have books that are provided. So we have Still Here, which is by Allie Anderson. She's really great. That we give out for stillbirth and infant death. And then we also have a book written by Geronda Dockett, When the
Hmm.
Heartbeat Stops. She's actually a DC teacher. That book is geared more toward miscarriage.
Hmm.
We have Grieving Dads by Kelly Farley that we have on hand for fathers. And then also I'm Still a Big Sister by Brittany and Eliza Day. And Eliza helped write that after losing
Oh.
her twin siblings.
Oh.
And so it's called I'm Still a Big Sister, but it's applicable for everyone. They have
Yes.
all different types of families in that book for children. So we partner with hospitals, and the hospitals have the packages and then all these different books, and they kind of choose which books are most appropriate
Which
for the
makes
situation.
sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're just taking care of all of those in that area. And one of the things that is so cool is that if you if you know somebody that like I just think of our box too that we walked out with, and you're like, this is what I get. It's like it really is so rough. And then just to think of there's somebody on the other side of this box that has gone through this, and wants to make sure that you're taken care of because you're not going to take care of yourself. You're not in the right mind to take care of yourself. And
Right.
so I just think it's so rad. I will definitely put a link in the show notes for this, but I just want to point out that if you want to donate so that your organization can basically create these boxes and get them to moms of loss and families of loss, then there is a spot to do that, and I think it's cool because it really is like you just don't feel worthy. You feel like your
Yes.
body's you feel like your body has failed you. You feel pretty crummy after you
Yeah.
lose a baby. So
And in addition to the hospital partnerships, so we are actually almost up to 20 hospitals now. So we pretty much
it's
have the whole
great.
DC area
That's amazing.
provided for, and now we're expanding to Jersey, New York, Georgia. So I also welcome emails for anyone that
Mm,
has connections to hospitals. We are in a position where we can provide pretty much for any hospital that's interested in us. So please send me an email. I usually connect with the L&D nurses or social workers, but if you have a hospital connection, we want to be in there for families.
that is so cool. I just think that is something that is needed. Like those little things that we did receive are really treasured for us, but some of those things are just not. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about the immediate, right? I mean,
Yes.
even if, you might look in that memory box a week later, but the next day you might be sitting on your couch crying, light a candle, make some tea. you know, it's these little items that you can put into use immediately.
Yeah.
That's the whole point behind
And
it.
some of those items are very comforting. It's
That's
not gonna fix the problem. That's not what the
Nope.
point is. It's
Nope.
not fixing a problem. Your baby's not coming back. And
Yeah.
so to have something that of comfort so you can sit
Yep.
and cry and grieve and
Exactly.
mourn, it's nice to have like you said, something comfortable and
Yeah, and our
cozy.
tagline is a gentle hug from someone who knows the pain. So I'm not saying, "Hey, this will make you feel better." No, it's me giving you a hug saying, "I know how terrible this is.
Yep.
I know what you're feeling, the thoughts that you might be having, and here are just some things that made me feel some of those feelings a little bit less, and I hope that that also works for you."
Yeah. That's so cool. Okay, so Liz, and then tell me the other portion that you are this other
Yeah,
organization that you are
yeah.
involved in, because I have actually many lost moms friends that are in helping also, and so tell us a little bit more about Push.
Yes. So I like to say that I wear two hats. My reactive hat for when loss has already happened is with Aaliyah in Action. I hope that one day I need to completely change the mission of Aaliyah in Action because of the work that Push Pregnancy is doing. So I am the co-director of communications for Push for Empowered Pregnancy. We are a stillbirth prevention nonprofit. We are nationwide. We have, people are involved everywhere in this country, which is great. And I got started with Push before Push even had a name. The executive director, Sam, sent me an email. She found my email address somewhere,
Mhm.
and she had seen my stuff in the news
Yeah.
and basically reached out and said, "I know this is so early for you, but this is a group of moms that have experienced this, and we're trying to prevent stillbirth. Whenever you're ready, we would love to have someone like you on our team."
Yeah.
And I read it like right here on this couch, and I was like, "Well, what else am I doing?" I hadn't like fleshed out my idea for Aaliyah in Action yet. So Push actually came before Aaliyah in
Yeah.
Action. But I was sitting here and I was like, it's not like I have a screaming baby to attend to. So maybe I can, join this and start mothering her. My whole struggle was I had prepared so much to be a mom,
Yeah.
was reading everything, bought everything, and now I was like, where does all this mothering go? And so when Sam introduced me to this group of extremely powerful women and men, I said, "Sure, what can I do?"
Yeah.
So I started to get to know everybody, and it was just so, this is going to be weird to say. It was so strange and cool to read these stories that were all equally as terrible as mine, but also to just see how similar they were
Yep.
it was just so similar. Some of them I felt like I was reading my own
Mm-hmm.
story. And strange in that, again, when I was told that Aaliyah didn't have a heartbeat, my first response was, I thought this only happened in the 1800s. And now I'm meeting all these people that have also experienced it recently too. Some not so recent and others very recent. And so it just immediately felt like a family that I wanted to be a part of. And so since then, we have been working so hard to just tell the world, tell this country that stillbirth still exists. And not only does it exist, it's happening to about 23,000 babies a year,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane.
Yeah.
I didn't even know stillbirth still happened.
Yeah.
Most expecting people do not know that stillbirth still happens.
Yep.
I understand that it can be a scary thing to think about when you're pregnant, but I like to be armed with information
Yep.
that could keep me safe, my children safe. I wasn't armed with that information the way I know I should have been.
Yeah.
And so I want to change that. And in my birth story episode, I talked about how, I was only told when good things are happening that everything is fine. Oh, if this is happening, it's great. This is happening, it's great. Why wasn't I educated more on kick counting?
Yes. Yes.
I was told, oh, as long as you feel her moving, it's fine. Okay, great. Was I told about patterns of movements? Absolutely not. Was I told about the Count the Kicks app? No, I was not. Was I told about, the fact that if she's, being a track star gymnast, that might not be a good thing?
Yes,
No,
exactly.
I was not.
Yes.
Which is exactly what was happening. And I had no idea that meant that something was wrong.
Yep.
And especially with Count the Kicks, an established organization like that has had this app. I mean, every single person needs to know about that, no
Yep.
matter how healthy you are in your pregnancy, because a lot of our stillbirths happened with textbook pregnancies that didn't end so textbook. So we're trying to work with medical professionals, policymakers, and just, really trying to sound the alarm that this is a silent epidemic. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. And so you guys are going for you're trying to work with policy also within each state and trying to spread that from there because like hospital like there's always so much administration stuff, right? So I think
Yeah,
it's cool that you guys are kind of going through like let's look at the bigger picture here and see if we can get more awareness and get it on people's radars because it is definitely was not on my radar. It's not on so many people's radars.
exactly. And also a lot of it is, what is the response for pregnancy after loss?
Mhm.
So our biggest initiative so far that we've accomplished is opening a rainbow clinic at Mount Sinai in Manhattan. And so this is the program that's being used in the UK that has proved to lower rates of preventable stillbirth. And we finally have that here in the United States. It took way longer than it should have, but PUSH has been able to bring that exact model here. And now it's at Mount Sinai. So that means that those providers and those doctors have had special training to help families after loss.
Wow.
If you want an extra test done, the mental health component to this,
Yeah.
it's all encompassing, and it's a huge step forward in one, making sure families are healthier, but also just appropriately responding to
To the
loss.
loss.
Exactly. And our hope is that this model of a rainbow clinic is not only applied to what happens after a loss, it should be applied to prevent one from even happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I also want to say, I know that not every loss is preventable. And so I'm not out here thinking that exactly 23,000 lives will be saved. But speaking from my own experience with Aaliyah, her life could have been saved.
Yeah.
Some more things been done.
Yeah, I was going to say, since you mentioned even specifically in your birth episode that you remembered her being kind of crazy during Thanksgiving and And,
Yeah.
I like, as I have talked to so many people, you're like, "Oh, that's a sign that something is not normal, likely
Right.
not normal." So I think that's awesome. So tell me, you guys have an event coming up, I think, and I would love to talk about this because I think this is an invitation to anybody who may be listening.
Yeah.
If you have a lost parent in your life, or if you are yourself a lost parent, I think this would be a great way to show up for your baby. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about it.
Absolutely. So I want everyone to open up their iCal, take out their agenda, and mark down October 15th as the big push. We are not playing around with sounding these alarms. And so on Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day, we are trying to have as many lost families, advocates, community members, friends, and family that we can get to show up to stop preventable stillbirth.
Yes.
We are having our main event in Washington, D.C. However, we are having satellite locations through the country. And there will also be a hybrid element to this, so virtual. So you might just be on your couch or traveling that day, but you can still take part and still show policymakers, medical community, medical societies that we have had enough. Major medical things are being just underused, not studied enough, practices that could have saved a lot of our children.
Yep.
And so we're done with it. Our part of our DC event is going to be an empty stroller march to, signify our babies that are not here. And so we encourage people all throughout the country to have an empty stroller march of your own to represent your child. And we're going to have really great speakers and just overall raise the awareness. I mean, I can't even, I forget the exact statistics, but stillbirth claims the lives of more babies than car accidents, SIDS, drowning, all of these different things combined. And yet we still don't know about it.
Yeah. We
That
don't talk
drives
about it.
me just really, oh gosh, I could go on and on. But October 15th, the big push to end preventable stillbirth with push pregnancy. Again, virtual hybrid component. So you don't have to be in DC or even near a satellite event to take place, but we need you. We want 23,000 people to be active in this to represent all of our children.
That is like so much, but really not that much. Really, I think
Well,
we can
when you
all
think about
participate in.
how
Yeah.
many years, right, this has
Yes.
been happening,
Exactly.
23,000 should be nothing because
Yes.
that was just this past year alone.
Yeah. I think this is
Scary.
a way to show up and be very visible to some of the folks that need to see us, need to
Yes,
um
exactly,
have that
exactly.
representation in their brain of like, "Oh god, this is affecting so many families." And it's not just the mom, it's not just the dad, it's like the siblings, the grandparents that
Yes,
are
the family
affected.
unit.
Yeah.
Yes, friends, absolutely,
So,
absolutely, and we need everyone on board, not just you. We need your friends, your family, your doctors,
yeah.
everybody.
And I know, so Liz, tell me what time it's going to be happening in DC time. So that would be
Yep,
Eastern time on
yep,
October 15th, just because I know that there's a lot of times, because it is Pregnancy and Infant Loss
yeah,
Awareness Day,
yeah,
that a lot of people have a walk of remembrance. So I just want to make sure that maybe there's a possibility that they can participate in both of their events, however
yep.
that looks.
Absolutely. So our event will be from 12 to 4.
Okay.
And so we're kind of thinking if there's a walk or a 5K happening, that usually happens in the morning.
Yeah.
And we have more, candlelight vigils and stuff in the evening. So we're kind of claiming that
The
afternoon
afternoon.
12
Great.
spot.
Okay.
We have over 30 partner organizations signed on that are also promoting this and taking part. So it's really a group effort in the maternal infant health space.
That's amazing. If you would like to um g- be vocal about this on in your own life and on your social media channels, I know people
Yeah.
there are many people are on it on social media. If you would like to
Yes,
put that information out, we can please contact Liz. You can contact me, and we will get
absolutely.
information to you because I think this is so important and really would be a very, I think, impactful way of kind of being there for your child and showing like you matter to me and I want to prevent this in future, like for future families. So Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And you can find us at Push Pregnancy on Instagram. We have a whole site dedicated to the big push. And we're excited to see what this can drum up after, in an effort to make sure that more families leave the hospital together.
Yeah.
That's
That
cool.
that is so, so important. Liz, this has been such a cool, like, I just, you think of all of the things that, like, the stages of grief that you go through.
Mm.
And one of the they say the later stages of grief is to kind of find purpose or meaning for the lost one's life, the person that you've lost, their life has purpose. And so, I mean, that's why we started this podcast. And I think of all
Yeah.
the stuff that you have done to be active, to basically embrace activism in regards to your daughter. And so, what a really neat way to celebrate her life in all the spicy ways you're doing it, all the feisty ways
Exactly.
that you're doing it on her behalf.
Oh my gosh, exactly. And yes, no, that it is her spicy personality. And I'm happy that she's allowed me to be strong enough to do it.
Yeah.
Some days I'm not strong and I don't do it. And then other days I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. Liz, thank you so, so much for your
thank
time today.
you.
I have really appreciated getting to know you and chatting with you today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
For sure.